Welcome to Cammy's Comic Corner.
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 Let's start. As the stragglers are walking in, it's quite all right. More the merrier. We got chairs to fill. Welcome to the 6th annual podcasting panel here at San Diego Comic-Con. My name's John Suntress. I host a podcast called The Ripple Balloon, and we have a great panel. And some of our returning champions have joined us. We got a couple newbies as well. I'm going to start with one of the newbies. They will introduce themselves and give a brief description of their podcast if you haven't listened to their podcast. So we'll start with the gentleman to my right.
My name is Pat Loika, and I am the host of Loika Mania, and basically we talk about the stuff I like, and I talk with creators and other people about stuff that we like. That's pretty much all there is to it.
My name is Connor Kilpatrick. My name is Connor Kilpatrick. I'm one of the hosts of iFanboy. We do a weekly audio show and a weekly video show and other strategically other audio shows. A lot of late evening shows for the amount of time during the day. We do iFanboy.com.
Hey, Jimmy Aquino with Comic News Insider, a weekly show covering comics, animation, sci-fi, TV, film, etc.
I'm Ron Chrisman, one of the co-hosts of Comic and Geek Speak. We're about a 3 to 5 time a week podcast about comics, news, reviews, and interviews, and like everybody else, love comics.
I'm John May with the Comic Book Page podcast. My co-host Bob's over there. We do weekly reviews covering Marvel, DC, and other. We do episodes on what's out in previews, so what's coming up. We talk about sales figures. We do back issue spotlights. Pretty much all comics all the time. Yeah.
I am Cameron Cammy Hathaway. I host Cammy's Comic Corner, the video podcast, and the newly Geeky Talkie audio podcast. And basically, I'll talk about weekly reviews, book of the month reviews, and things you should be checking out if you aren't checking them out already.
Show of hands, anyone who is attending that hasn't listened to a podcast? As always, 1, 2 people, that's fabulous. You're lying, Josh.
I've never actually listened.
And already I've spilled, but that's okay. Basically, this is an opportunity for us to really talk in a roundtable fashion, get together, maybe contrast some ideas and stuff. So much is happening in the comics world, and certainly digital is part of the conversation now. DC stepping up with Day and Date, with the new 52, joining Image, and some of the other publishers like Archie and stuff like that. But I guess, Pat, you were at one of the Marvel panels, and apparently Marvel is kind of dipping their toe in Day and Date.
Yeah, this is the Spider-Man book, starting with the Spider Island story. Is going to be going day and date, and they'll be doing the same with X-Men later this evening.
Very cool. And John, on John's podcast in particular, they really look at the direct market, and clearly the idea is that everyone's looking for new readers, and I guess what's happening in the shrinking direct market, correct, John?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we're getting to where we have DC titles and Marvel titles selling in the 10,000 or under range, on a monthly basis. And when you've got top sellers that are down, around 70, 80,000 and stuff, whereas before there was typically be a number of titles above 100,000. I mean, these publishers need to reach out to digital, to pretty much any audience they can find, wherever they can find it. Now, John, you were also at the ICD2 thing yesterday. Did you catch what, I guess it was IDW was saying that like 3% of their business was digital? So it's growing, but it's still a small part.
But the key to that, though, is it is only 3% of their audience. However, they said that number has doubled since 2011. They also mentioned some Transformers numbers, which is interesting. They did a prequel to the new Transformers movie, Transformers. And they said that they threw out a 55,000 download number, which, if you know your comic book numbers, is obviously very significant. So, this all reminds me, despite contrary, opinions, this all reminds me of what we went through with Napster 10 years ago. And that, yes, it's the very beginning of digital, but I mean, you can't deny the digital juggernaut that's coming, as the devices get more sophisticated, the Nook, everything else that's coming along with the iPad. John Root on that same panel said that Android comic downloads are starting to outpace iPad downloads. phones, and the Android devices are getting more sophisticated. So it's, it's this coming audience, and it's been fun to watch the direct market people complain about the encroachment, and that, hey, we're still relevant. Of course they're still relevant. It's the core of the audience, but you've got to include this other audience. So.
Do people read digital? Clap if you read digital.
Show of hands. iPad? Show of hands. iPhone? Okay. Android?
Nook?
Nook now in color, and more product is being designed for the Nook. Very interesting. And the other encroachment thing that I think some of the direct market people resent is the transmedia connection, as they call it. It used to be called crossing over, 10 years ago when it was all being done in broadcasting. And I think that's fascinating as well, because we've got to face facts that a lot of these new readers are coming for the Burn Notice digital comic, in fact, that DC just made for USA Network. And it's fun to kind of watch these little initiatives. And they're, people are getting used to, I think, the storytelling format. And if it's done well, and what's the difference that I've noticed, and I don't know about you guys, but they're involving creators. I mean, we saw with Dark Horse with Buffy and Joss Whedon's direct involvement along with other writers. And that's the kind of thing that didn't happen 20, 30 years ago. Bob, you know too, because you read back in the past. I mean, people would try with Charlton and some of these older publishers to do knockoff books. That's what they were knockoffs. There's more legitimacy to, I think, a lot of these digital titles.
All right, clearly John has some thoughts on the subject.
Sorry.
You guys, what do you guys?
Well, yes, I do. Thank you for asking. Actually, one of the things in the transmedia that's worth pointing out is what IDW did the Star Wars movie and the Star Wars Countdown comic, which was essentially the campfire scene with Spock and stuff. All those events that he was recounting were in the comics, so they're trying to get it a lot more integral and stuff. The other thing, though, is I think we're still at the forefront of the digital, but there are a lot of people sampling this, maybe not as many people buying this. So I don't know if the business model has really proven itself out there.
Well, no one knows what it is. I mean, iFanboy is owned by a digital comics company, and we know it better than anyone that it's still evolving. What people want and what the technology will give is still hasn't really met. You were talking about Android. The new devices, the Nook is really popular with comics. The devices that keep changing, it's not set yet, basically the point. And the fact that 3% only IDW sales is good, considering how much product there is out there, how much selection. The books people want aren't really available yet. When DC does it, it'll be the first time books people actually actively want will be available to get digitally.
One thing I noticed too quickly, and I'll try to be quick, is what's missing from digital comic purchases versus music purchases is the one-click purchase of a full story. And the publishers seem very hesitant to put that product out. And that, I think, might be a barrier for someone who wants to come in and read a full story. I'm wondering about this mythic audience, this untested audience. And when they spend their $3.99 on a new DC book or $2.99, are they going to be bummed that it's only a first chapter and not a full story?
I've got another question about the barrier to entry. Is what's the cheapest iPad-like device or whatever that would be a suitable reader? What's the cost of entry?
I would imagine a smartphone, I guess.
So,
but that's assuming people only want to read on a tablet. A lot of people read on the desktop. It's much bigger than you think.
They mentioned that again at the ICP2 thing, and it was sounding like for at least I think it was IDW, they were saying like 1% or whatever, most was on the mobile.
Yeah,
so, I don't know.
It's different for every. There's lots of people who read on the desktop.
Okay, it's the Wild West, as they said. Yes.
Like I said,
but
it's
even
evolving.
that desktop is going to cost a couple $100 or something.
Yeah, but dude, I have a mini laptop and I get digital comics on that. It's under $200.
My only point is that's going to cut out a certain portion of the potential audience, just because you've got to pay the cost to get that reading device, versus you spend $2.99, you've got the comic, you don't need any additional technology to go read it.
What I think, you mentioned potential audience, and I think potential audience is already here. What we find on iFanboys, if we talk about a book that isn't a Marvel DC or Image, half the audience can't get it. They have no access to it. Their stores don't carry it. Their little store they have to drive an hour to doesn't get into the Marvel DC. There are books that Oni Press and IDW and Boom put out right now that people want to buy and can't. And that's the companies that are truly jumping on this and taking advantage of it. Because their audience is here. They want to buy books. They're already buying books. They can't.
Well, and I mean, I think and our publishers are afraid of cannibalizing the audience that might get to them. Fine. If they can't get to a store, they are online. They can buy it from Amazon. I mean, they can buy it obviously from the publishers' websites. It was interesting hearing about Dark Horse and how involved they're getting with digital, not only for an American audience, but really a global audience in terms of their plan is to really get comics going in seven different languages. And I think that's very forward thinking. And you know, it's very interesting hearing how they're all doing it. Like I said, it's a wide open frontier. And what other experiences? Again, I want to know what everybody else thinks. I just think it's important to be able to buy an ebook version of a comic arc and really have that one button purchase of whatever. Maybe their problem is that they're afraid of determining an ebook price for a 6-issue arc, and they want to sell it piecemeal. I see a question.
Yeah, iTunes has the season pass. You buy that, but you only get that in installments. I mean, that's a possible solution. I don't know.
That's where I go back to the business model hasn't really worked itself out yet. Whether they can use season passes or stuff like that without encroaching on the print, sales and stuff is really going to be what the game changer will be. Whoever figures that out first successfully is going to do really well.
Sir.
Like what you were saying, smaller markets, smaller companies, that might be their way in. That might be their front end.
Sure.
Digital, but like I said, there has to be market.
And middle market people like Comixology and Graphically and Panelfly and all these other stores obviously put them all on the same shelf, much like a virtual newsstand. The other initiative that I see that's interesting is Marvel and Starbucks relationship. And I really wanted to ask John Root and some of the other publishers if they're going to get those kind of things. Because that's great to like just walk in, connect to your Wi-Fi, and immediately, hey, you want to buy a Marvel comic? It's right here.
Hey, John, you're going to want to repeat some of these questions because they're not going to be heard of.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Bobby. So yeah, someone was just asking about if small publishers will be able to obviously get additional footing on the on the virtual newsstand along with the big four, and that's a possibility. And again, I think it's these intermediates that will help. So yes, I will.
I really think the smaller publishers is where digital is going to help out the most because, like these guys are saying, not all comics are in all stores, not all stores are in all locations. So if a small press publisher can put their stuff up on the web and suddenly it's available to everybody who's got an internet connection, a mobile device, or anything they can read it on, I mean that really lowers the barrier of entry, right? And they convince all of these comic store owners and stuff to wrap their book.
Everyone's stunned. All right. We'll move on. I also think that again, I think as much as some of us roll our eyes at these licensed comics, I think that is an entry point. And the interesting thing that came out of the IVC2 panels yesterday was that they are creating these virtual stores for properties like Star Wars, Star Trek, Transformers. And when you go to buy the movies at iTunes, there's also options to buy, obviously, digital comics as well. It's nice to see all that stuff up there. I just think that's an interesting access point for people who maybe have never tried comics. Sir?
What's your opinion on the price points they show?
The price points that the comics are at right now. I think that's going to change. I think, guys, let's all go down the list.
Well, it's $2.99 for DC, right? That's what they're doing.
Right.
$1.99 after a month.
Yes.
They don't sell enough to really make it 99 cents. They won't make any money off it at first. They have to sell a lot more copies of the book. I mean, people want 99 cents. I want 99 cents. Right? For God's sake, so many books, but they don't sell enough of them, and they don't know how many they're going to sell. So right now, they don't want to put up the stores. There's all kinds of things that go into play with the pricing. It's not a simple solution. There's also a lot of costs involved. People don't realize. So there's lots of things that come into play with pricing.
No other thoughts? I'd also point out, though, that much like iTunes, when it first came out, I remember 10 years ago, CDs cost $20 and now are $15. And so suddenly the price has dramatically gone down 25%.
I think the publishers are kind of caught in the bind because they can't go to the lower price even if it were viable and profitable. Because again, it would undercut the print sales. That's their main revenue stream right now. This is a business. They got to stay in business to create the content. So, I mean, with DC going day to day with price parity for the first month, I mean, that's the only choice they really had.
Hey, Pants, I want to get you in the conversation because you're one of those guys that was really bummed about DC going to back to the soft reboot that they're in the process of. Relaunch, excuse me. Yes, Gail Smoke. So, but it sounds like you kind of changed your mind.
Yeah, I haven't worked up to it, but I had a knee-jerk reaction to it because I've been reading for a long time, and this was steeped in the history of the DC comics. And this relaunch is having just, I don't like it. There's so many things they're getting rid of, like the JSA, for instance. The JSA, I'm a big fan of JSA, and they're not going to be around. did in DC over here.
Well, yeah, I don't know. You know, there's a phase 2 coming behind this 50 initial titles. Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of been hinted that I think a lot of things that may not be part of this initial 52. But Pants, you and I are kind of the same age, and it surprises me because at this point,
You're 35?
we've been through exactly, and we've been through so many relaunches that if anything, I always kind of it's a fun change. It's an opportunity to kind of get rid of the baggage and be able to kind of approach these characters fresh again. And it's an inevitability. It's been happening since, you know, Superman came out in 38, in 49. Steve Schuster did a new origin of Superman, and it was a lot longer than the 2 pages that it was finished.
Right. I sort of made myself think, well, wait a minute. This has been going on for years. You had the Silver Age, where all the Silver Age heroes were back. So that's why I went to, it's been going on for years and years, maybe in smaller chunks, not as big as this. So that's how I rationalized how I'm going to go on.
Well, did you guys read Pre-Crisis and stuff off the rack?
Sure.
I mean, I certainly did.
I did not know.
Okay, so for me, I'm at the point where, you know, I'm excited and interested in this new relaunch and stuff, but having read pretty much the entirety of the DC universe, you know, with depth and breadth and stuff, since that relaunch, through a few minor tweaks and updates and stuff, for them now to be feeling like they're kind of sort of cutting the cord but not quite restarted, you know, I have had to ask myself, do I want to continue with it or not, or is it a good jumping off point? The fact that that question even came up, I think, is unfortunate.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It's like everyone's gonna bitch and moan about it, but they're gonna buy it.
Exactly.
You're gonna buy them. I mean, this money, what you're gonna buy them. And here's the thing. Jim Lee actually said, "Did you expect that?"
That's what we do, man.
I was talking like on Twitter, going back and forth, and I sort of just, you know, put it out there, saying something about like, well, what's the sense? Should we continue with the DC Comics now until the relaunch? What's the sense? It's the relaunch, you know. What's the relaunch? And he said, because they're good stories. Amazing. And that's a good thing. It's like, if they're good stories, they're good stories.
Who's reading Flashpoint out there? A lot of hands, okay.
I like Flashpoint.
That Batman's great. I know you guys, I fanboy, they've been loving it. We're all loving it.
Our lawyers did not talk about that Batman story. No, that's the question. What do you read the books for? If it's to be
entertainment.
Exactly, entertainment. It's of course to keep up with the fabric of the universe, or just reading a story.
Yeah.
I mean, that's to me. There's no question.
Both?
You can have both of them. I mean,
No, you cannot.
It's a bizarre question to me. I think to ask. Why should you be reading if you're not? I mean, the whole point is to have fun.
It's to have fun, but my thought on continuity is if the creators don't have enough perspective, they're reading the material and taking it seriously, kind of playing by the rules that were set, you know, and you're just kind of throwing them out willy-nilly, you know, why should I care?
Because you're enjoying the story, right?
It's not respect. I don't think it's disrespect, though. It's not disrespect. Again, I think it's, you got, after a while, things get, the Lois and Clark marriage, which has been fun, has been going on for 20 years. I welcome a single Superman again, because I miss that line. Being, you know, to
Come on, we all want to know Wonder Woman.
What up?
I mean, I think what it is also is like, you know, it's, we keep forgetting, it, like Connor, it's entertainment. You know, it's not like it's history where we take a time machine and go back and change the line of the Tudors in England.
What though? What happened? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, would be kind of cool. No Elizabethan age, great. You know, and but now, you know, it's entertainment, and it's unfortunate because you become very close to certain characters, certain books. And it's disappointing, but at the same time, you know, it's like I look forward to a lot of the new stuff. You know, I'm questioning some of the new stuff. Like, oh, that's a curious character to bring about, but I look forward to see what they can do with it. And if it's entertaining, it may surprise you.
Didn't Marvel do the same thing 10 years ago with X-Men? I mean, essentially, I mean, I remember those first 5 Gems Casada years, and they essentially said, going back to the basics of these characters, they didn't really come out and say reboot. There was certainly the Ultimate line, but even in the 616.
There's going back to the basics, and then there's actually changing the history. And what they look to be doing with the DC relaunch, and again, we haven't seen it, so who knows, is rolling back about 5 years into the history, meaning most of the junior characters aren't going to have existed, like Vance was saying about the JSA, which I'm a big fan of too, not going to be there. So there are going to be fundamental differences. It's not a back to basics storytelling approach or characterization aspect. That's changing the rules of the game, essentially. And if they're welcome to do that, there are risks involved with all this stuff.
People pro or con? Pro DC relaunch. Con DC relaunch.
Anybody
going to drop the books entirely because of the relaunch?
Yeah, raise hands. Anybody drop?
Anyone go to that?
Is there anybody who didn't read DC before that's now going to pick up DC books because they're in? And that's why they're doing it. That's why they're doing it. But it had to, because nothing they did changed their market share. Nothing.
They're not going after market share.
They have to sales somehow.
Sure, well, they want sales. They have market share. Balancing, no, it's not the same. Balancing the market share is how big of a slice of the pie that pie changes drastically from month to month. It can go up by 1 million or something. So DC can actually lose market share and gain sales.
Sure, but the point is they had to increase their sales. Sales weren't going up no matter what. Holding the line didn't change anything.
But they're trying to go after the right kind of sales, I think.
Yeah.
When they're trying to grow readership.
Yes, exactly. Going outside the Wednesday curve.
If they wanted to grow dollar sales, like I said, with the hold the line for $2.99, there's no way they would.
Yeah.
Well, with that, this reminds me of an interview I did recently with Don Rosa, where he talked about how the market was basically killed. Because it used to be, multi-market, you get it at 7-Eleven, you get it on the local newsstand. Now it's just local comic shops. Of course, we love and support our local comic shops. But if that did kill, so with this new launch, will they start putting them out back on the racks, like at a newsstand or 7-Elevens or exactly?
Yeah, that's the thing. I really think great innovations in terms of new markets. Good luck. I don't know. I mean, I really think another reason why the newsstand model dropped for a lot of reasons was that the price point was too low and they weren't getting enough of a return on the newsstand. It's funny that Archie, however, is that sole, publisher that stuck with that.
I'm so impressed with the stuff Archie's doing. So I really am.
They're aggressive, yeah, both creatively and market-wise. Absolutely.
Got a question over here.
Please.
There are foreign comic titles that are released in, multi-story, almost like magazine releases, where you have a full story into a magazine, weekly, might be monthly. Is that sort of format that these major companies can do?
The question is, will the publishers move to a weekly format where it's more of an anthology and there are several stories, kind of like Shonen Jump, I'm guessing.
Or 2018, exactly. Actually coming to the States by it.
I've heard rumors of a digital initiative that resembles that by the two major publishers. I haven't actually seen a product come out yet, but I keep hearing that those kinds of things are being considered and stories are being created for that kind of format. Because the other thing about the iTunes model that worries me is that 30-day wait for the next chapter. And because they keep saying it's like a TV show. No, it's not. You've got to wait 30 days, and again, you've only got one chapter. It's not it depends how you look at the experience of reading a single issue. And I don't know if, with E-Blast, sure, you can be reminded, but I'm not sure what's going to happen. Sir?
Yeah, when it comes down to digital, this whole thing is supposed to be like a grab for new readers. And they're going to have to get accustomed to the idea of one issue a month. What do you think delayed issues are really going to cause an effect on? Someone who's like, oh, I'm ready for the next issue of the month. It's not on my iPad. 2 months, not on my iPad. 6 months, now it shows up. Do you think that's really going to hurt them?
Yeah, there's a concern if the books fall behind on schedule and they don't show up every 30 days. Will that hurt interest? Sure. Well, obviously DC's trying to shore up their,
They've been stockpiling issues before this launch, and that's of course the killer, right? It kills regular paper sales. People drop books when they don't come out. So they're going to be cognizant of the fact that if they want to get some random guy who hasn't read comics for 30 years or never read comics, they got to have the books come out.
Or be prepared for an art change, because that's another thing they're doing is that, hey, if you are late, someone else will finish your issue.
Because people like us, we're kind of used to art changes and the occasional delay, but when it comes under a new reader that you're trying to grab, that's going to be.
Yeah, is that going to be a barrier for you?
It's kind of makes it exciting and scary because no one really knows the answers to any of these questions. And we're gonna find out in a few months.
Jim Lee is making sure, this is no more late books, we're not gonna F this up. But does that apply to him too? Because he's gonna be on the new Justice League relaunch, but is this gonna stick around maybe for 3 issues and then, do layouts and then just completely be off title as well? Like, how are they gonna hold him to account too?
Who's the boss?
Yeah, I mean, who's gonna go up to the boss and go, I'm sorry for your screwing up?
Well, he's been on Twitter saying, believe me, I'm not gonna screw this up. I'm sure they all know what's riding on this. I'm sure all of us who are indoctrinated in DC know. When they said Jeff Johnson, Jim Lee on Justice League for this initiative, we're like, that's good, but is he going to be on time? Because when the track record speaks for itself. Sir?
I have a question about with the push for digital now.
Do you think that that actually presents an exciting opportunity for you guys as podcasters? Because you guys are digital, and you guys already put out your stuff through downloads. There's kind of a, I don't know, to me it seems like there's kind of a relationship that could be there. Is that something that would excite you guys?
Yes. With my video review show, I am literally scanning books every weekend. And while all my friends are out partying and whatnot, I'm slaving away behind a scanner. And so just the mere fact of this being accessible to me, being able to just copy and paste, as it were, just to make my job a lot more easier, I'm so looking forward to this day-to-day release. So yes, I'm very all for it.
You know, we want to throw it open to questions, and honestly, we can talk about podcasts.
We'll keep battling until they kick us out.
I want to go back to her question when she talked about the anthologies like that, like, because you see something like 2000 AD that works in the UK, and they've tried it here. Like DC's tried it, Marvel's tried it. Dark Horse work here. That's the thing. It just doesn't tell. Like Dark Horse is bringing back their Dark Horse Presents by $8.
I was going to say,
it
just like factors the price.
Yeah, but if you have a choice though, I mean that's the thing. Like DC and Marvel and even Dark Horse has done it with limited things. 2000 AD, that's how you get 2000 AD comics. If you want to read that stuff, that's how it comes out. You don't have a choice.
But I think at the price point we're at now, the anthology thing just doesn't work. I mean, I think part of why DC rolls back to $2.99 is that additional dollar for that 10-page backup story. That's great if you're interested in both the lead story and the backup story. But if you only want the lead, you're paying $1 more for 10 pages you don't really care about. If you only want the backup story, you're paying, $2.99 more for a lead you don't care about. It's a losing proposition.
That's what we talked about when we reviewed the Dark Horse. The first one, there was like, what, 8, 10 stories in it?
Yeah.
For $8, it's like, oh, that's a lot of, I mean, it's a good deal if you think about it, but it's just like, it could have done without 3 or 4 stories, and just cut the price down to $4.99.
I would like to see, rather than go with the apology stuff, take something like these 10-page backup stories, go with the slimline format, put that out for $1.50 or something like that.
Digitally for 99 cents, there's your possible model. More questions? Yes, sir.
I had a comment just on the thought of something you were saying earlier about stuff formatted for mobile devices, Android, iPad, whatever. The black market for digital comics is certainly not a mobile device market. I know there's gajillions of scanned comics, floating around, and those people are reading on iPad.
We're talking about bootlegging comics, obviously.
I'm just saying that
bootlegging, you're right, bootlegging shows, clearly people read them on their computers.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Sir,
just follow up on driving new readership. I think that's key to the digital initiative. What are you guys' thoughts on how to attack that new market? Because a lot of stuff that sells to comic shops, we know what sells to comic shops. We want to find some new people. How do we do that?
Well, yeah, Bob just asked about getting a new audience that maybe doesn't care about the product that comes out in the direct market, and how do we get this new audience? One thing obviously that came up yesterday was the fact that a lot of the successful digital properties seem to be ones that are tied to other media properties like Transformers, Star Wars, Star Trek. I mean, it is like the Burn Notice comic. It's really good, and it's because Matt Nix, the creator, much like Joss Whedon on Buffy, had a direct hand in it. And that's the thing. It's really making it matter and letting this digital audience know you love the show or you love the movie. Well, here's a sliver of the story that you didn't get, just like John's example that he told earlier. Falling Skies, the new TNT show. They got Paul Tobin to work with Mark Verheiden. Mark, you might remember, is a writer of comics as well as a television producer. And they came up with the prequel to Falling Skies, and it was great. It really read well, and it was on the Turner website. Thoughts, Patrick? That has done.
Well, you saw DC put a lot of genre books out, which they never would have in the past. Now they've got a horror book, they got a vampire book, they got a Western book. I mean,
I'm excited.
They're gonna try to move in that way. There's superheroes are not going to save the market.
Well, and what I want to know from the digital side, guys, is you got to get to where those people are. Like crime fans, wherever they, congregate online, I hope DC is out there and says, hey, if you like crime books, check out these titles. If you like military, like Soldier of Fortune, I guess. If you like paramilitary stories, check out these stories.
That one in particular is for all of the servicemen overseas and stuff.
Absolutely.
Give them a free digital account.
That sounds good.
We've had people coming back from task force, getting hooked on smoking, drinking, whatever. Let's get them hooked on comics.
No, I think you're right, man. I mean, I use this example all the time. Tim Truman had a Western book 15 years ago, couldn't get it sold to the publishers. He self-published it, went to Cowboy and Western magazines, advertised there, and made a profit. So, I mean, it can be done. It's the right partners. I mean, that's the key to success to any digital thing is the partnerships that you make in terms of exposing your product to other markets potentially.
Well, just real quick on that, if you do want to send comics to troops, there's plenty of sites out there you can look. I think there's one, anysoldier.com or something like that, where sending comics to is great. There's a whole list of, they're all over the world. You can find where you can send comics. There's a lot of them out there that want them. Because they ask for specific ones sometimes, or just they just want a whole bunch.
Digital stuff that you can also do.
Yeah, for sure.
Next technology.
Sir.
Do you think the publisher will start to use digital over test new ideas just digitally, not print and see what takes up or what will come in?
Will the publishers use the digital market as a test ground for products solely in the digital market?
I think that's going to happen once the digital market's proven itself out. I mean, the same sort of question could be asked of going direct or collected edition with something like Superman or 1. We do see that, but we don't see that battle. Part of it is the revenue model just doesn't, work out as well.
Are they doing that right now with Fear itself? The Worthy, weren't they releasing some of those issues only digitally?
Marvel has done a couple of things where they'll release digitally and then do it as a backup featuring Spider-Man or Shot or something like that. And some of the early ones of that, from about a year or so back, the quality I thought was really, really questionable. Again, because what's going to pay for the content creation? And if they can't do that off the digital sales, at least at that point they couldn't.
Sure.
Actually, I was very point. Here itself, like 8 pages just beforehand, and they had the actual writer, the current writer, like that part, if they just write an extra, just write an extra 2 pages, but if they do that onto the story they've already written, maybe that's the way.
Didn't they do that with Secret Invasion or Civil War with like a Nick Fury lead up by Secret Invasion?
There's also a Prelude to Spider Island that was released as a free comic book, but also released digitally as a free comic book. And Dan Slott wrote it, and it's it's like a nice 10-page story. So that's a possibility. But again, it's that question of, do you want the digital market to just be a sampling thing, or do you want it to be?
Now, didn't they talk yesterday at the ICP2 thing that a lot of it on the Android seemed to be a lot of people sampling versus purchasing, whereas on the iTunes and iPod market it seemed to be more purchasing stuff.
But it's what options are the publishers giving other than sampling? I mean, that's the thing. They throw out so many sample products that, it looks like it's really more of a sampling market. And it's like, well, that's all you're really giving out. If you're not really giving them concrete stories to buy, then expectations are limited.
We talked a lot about the business side of digital. One thing we haven't talked about is the creative side. And I was at Boston Comic Con earlier in the year. Darwin Cook spoke, and he said his next creator project will be digital only, and he's really going to utilize the format. He's going to have embeddable maps to follow the characters along where they are. Things that you can't do in paper. And now you can do a lot more things. You can put in audio files. You can do all kinds of things that you could never do. And I think the right creators can really utilize the format and have something really different.
Well, and I know Mark Wade's going, very much in that digital direction. I think it's cool to be able to add that extra stuff. At what point does it stop being comics and become something else? And that's something else we can very cool. But again, you start adding limited animation, you're just shy of a cartoon.
Well, yeah, I mean, animation is one thing.
But no, what comics describing, I think, can still qualify as comics. So, yeah.
To the embellishment, I also add that penalty that Heroes Con, Darwin talked about it, and we talked about it. He said, like, if you hit certain characters, you'll get the background of the character. You don't necessarily, there might be some sound, but it's mostly like if you file or another world, it'll explain more of what's going on.
Kind of a right context.
Like
that I would love.
We have some supplemental content. I mean, our company graphically does that already with books we have. Characters and information. We've experimented with commentaries too. We have audio commentaries that we let for DVDs. We do it with comics. There's a lot of things you can do to sort of enhance the digital experience, make it more interesting than it is the paper.
And I'm all for that. Sounds great.
Just like, 5 years ago, nobody liked to read ebooks because they were on the computer and you were stuck there. And then Amazon came out with a Kindle and Barnes & Noble stuff. And I don't want to each of those. I read those more than the books these days because I have a lot of books on my little Kindle. So with the iPad, I don't want those too. I would be more likely to buy comics than on anything else because I get away from the tether to the computer thing, but I get the color and I can really if I want to compare closer. It's got a lot of features that make that too.
I think it's like turning around a big boat. The changing the market's not easy. The comics are very nimble, more than most media, but even this is beyond that.
We're at the early stages. We'll see what develops. Sir,
It's not all about creativity. But it's the being a young teacher, as well. What sort of teachers are reading
honestly, what Darwin has been describing, I think, is a great thing. I mean, because it's time. Right now, the publishers mostly are taking the book format and just putting it out digitally, and they're not thinking about panels and I heard Chris Eastman on one of his podcasts say that a lot of times a double-page spread is almost a disappointment, whereas it looks so great in print, but then all of a sudden they have to turn your iPad or whatever tablet you're looking on, and suddenly the page is produced. It's like, oh, you know what I mean? And then, all right, let me expand it. So, that's the question of really that kind of story structure. Will that change? And I hope that the smarter graphic people, kind of.
I'd like to see them get that kind of freedom away from the limitations of the stage. But the big freedom I'd like to see creators get is away from the is it going to be profitable or not question. I mean, there's still some issues around that digital stuff, but if it can be to where Mark Waid or really any of these creators that are downstairs that are capable of doing just some brilliant stuff, but some of it they know just isn't quite going to sell in the current market. If they can get to where, hey, they just release it, do it, and it does well for them, that's where we're going to see a true comics renaissance. Because it allows them to just get unleashed and go wild.
Just read Alex de Campy's Valentine. Anybody? Oh, wow. Let me tell you, Alex de Campy did this story of Valentine and did this before the tablet and really figured out how to tell stories in different ways. It's pretty amazing. You really should look for it. You can find it free online. So there are creators out there. It's just not, unfortunately, a mainstream product. But she's done very well, and not only in the American market, but worldwide. She put it in several languages. It's so a lot of creators are starting to think about that format and changing things. Seriously, do yourself a favor. Check out.
So we have about 15 or so minutes. So any questions that have to do about digital? It can be
we have time. Honestly, sir.
I'm actually thinking of starting my own podcast next week, something long form with multiple segments.
Don't do it. We got it.
Go video. It's so much easier.
But I was wondering if you guys could go down the line and take devices.
The best thing I can advise you as far as podcast goes is talk about something you like. Don't talk about don't do a podcast to kind of complain or be mad at something. Just talk about what you like and have fun. That's
Yeah, I completely agree with what Pat just said. And really coming from radio where you always have to worry about the next commercial break, good for you for trying to do something long form, because I really think that it's an alternative to standard broadcasting, and I think keep that in mind and allow yourself the ability to let a conversation flow and or whatever subject you want to do. I mean, that's the thing. And if you want to talk for 2 hours about Transformers or something, whatever subject you want, crime books, whatever, go for it, man. Because other people will be enthused by your enthusiasm and get excited about it.
Do it because you like it and have fun, because it's a lot of work and it won't be a lot of reward. So if you do it, if you're going to spend the time to do it right, then make sure you have fun doing it and you like doing it. That'll be the most rewarding thing about it.
Especially if you're doing solo, it's like it's a lot more to it than people think. Oh, you just turn the mic on record. No, there's editing, putting graphics up and researching things and whatever. It's a lot of work, but again, I love it, so I don't have an issue with it.
And make sure you partner with other people who you know get the word out about your podcast. People know about it, know where to find it. Otherwise, just up yourself.
Yeah, there's a lot of value in having a co-host. I guarantee you would not have the 500 episodes out if it wasn't about helping you do it. Just having somebody to bounce the ideas off of and to keep the momentum going, it's a huge help. But do it because you can't not do it. It's a huge time investment. It's a lot of fun and stuff, but it can be very draining. So get caught up in your sleep now, because you don't have time later.
I'll just say join a couple of message boards, just keep it, and yeah, keep it fresh. Like these guys are saying, it helps to have different people on because then it gives a different perspective as well, and keeps people intrigued, and they might even email you that they want so-and-so back on.
When you say join a couple of message boards, other web-based message boards?
Yes. Yeah, just if you're just at one message board in particular, everyone might know you by then. But if you're part of several communities, and that's the great thing about comic books in particular, is just everyone's friends online sometimes. And there's so many different outlets where you can go and share certain loves of the medium. But back on topic of message boards, just try, depending on what your subject is, there's going to be an audience somewhere. You just need to find that niche.
Yeah, if you have guests, those guests likely have websites or message boards. Go there. I mean, that's what I did to grow my audience and stuff. I went to the creators' websites and stuff. Hey, if you like this guy, here's an hour-long interview and stuff. So yeah, find like-minded people and be weekly. Try to be weekly because it's really important to have a new product out there. That's what I'm talking about. This 30 days stuff. 30 days is, pretty much.
On a recent podcast, my fanboy Ron got an email that was read, and it was just went off on Ron. It was very.
It was very easy.
Yeah. But I was going to ask the panel when you started getting an audience and you found that first mail that really kind of attacked your opinion, how did that make you feel? Did it make you feel good that I am a listener? Or did it make you start to realize people are taking what I'm saying serious?
For me, the big thing wasn't so much getting a letter or whatever, but getting a magazine article published basically saying I was destroying the comic industry by reporting on sales. It definitely made me feel, it's both good and bad. People are listening. People are not going to agree with what you say. And I think having somebody come back with a critical response saying they spent some time and thought about what you said, what were you asking? I mean, that's really what it's all about.
You get frustrated at first, like, oh God, I'm a different opinion. But then if you, it does, yeah, like you were saying, it makes you think that, yeah, they really put some time and effort into making sure you know how they feel. And so if they ever tell you that they're never going to listen again because of some certain thing that you introduce, they're going to listen. They want to see if you're going to even mention them in the next episode. So, it's just one more for the...
I don't think they put a lot of time and effort into it. I think they knee-jerk react a lot. So it's like, and I've had several people will knee-jerk react to maybe an interview I did because it might be somebody they really love and they didn't like how I talked to the person. They felt I was either too comfortable with them or just, who do I think I was even talking to them. So I like to write back. And sometimes throws them off. And quite often I'll get an apology. No, I don't ask them one. I just explain it. I go, hey, I'm sorry you felt that way, but this happened, blah, blah, why, I don't know why you felt that way, but you're entitled to your opinion. I hope, you give us a chance again and listen again, and maybe it will be better for you. And quite often I've got, oh, I'm sorry, I just kind of reacted. I really love that person. And other times they're like, I still hate you, bye. So, it's cool, I take it.
You're putting an opinion out there, so yeah, be prepared for a counter opinion. Hey man, I break bad on my fellow podcasters and we'll go on the message boards and go your way out of line, or I didn't like what you said. And I don't do that to be a jerk, but coming from sports radio, there's more than one opinion. And I think it's good to have people that think to the contrary because it's only going to inspire more discussion. And I think that's good.
All right, we have 5 minutes, so who's had a good one?
But let me jump in real quick on that. I mean, what John's saying, that's why I have a co-host, is to have that different opinions. There are times Bob and I have diametrically different opinions on the comic and stuff. And, there may be some friction there or whatever, but it's a good kind of friction because I'm not the be-all end-all expert on comics. He's not. And between the two, our listeners are going to find either something that comes out of that discussion or they'll agree with one of us or whatever. And that's all what it's about.
All right, who's got the good final question? Is it good?
It's fantastic.
Awesome.
Boxers or briefs?
Come on.
We've got a real good question.
How hard was it trying to figure out time and the podcast, the length of the podcast? Did you set time, or did you just add whenever you're done talking about what you decide to talk?
My current episode of We're Doing is 3 hours and 50 minutes.
Yeah, people love that.
That's not a lie, exactly. And people do love it.
We found our size organic. We found our place.
This is related to the boxing question.
Our show started at like 20 minutes and then it became an hour. We found an hour was a really good time. And everybody's shows are different, but for us, we feel like we're in and out in an hour. We don't hang around too long. We're not babbling too long. So I think we just sort of came to it. It took about a year to find that spot, and now that's where everything is dirty.
Yeah, we tried to look like okay, an hour, but then like we'll have guests on. We want, you know, I don't like limiting my interviews if I'm talking to somebody, you know, that I feel a lot to say. And then something will break the 2 or 3 parts, but we won't play the whole interview, and it makes sense that 2 hours long. It's an hour and a half, you know, but it's a great interview, I think, so people seem to enjoy it. So we don't have a set time in ours.
We sort of have one because we do 3 episodes a night, so we have to, you know, stop at some point in the next episode. But usually about an hour and a half is what our comfort zone is for us.
For us, we talk until we're done. Sometimes it goes for a while, sometimes it doesn't. We've had like a weekly spotlight, sometimes go 30 minutes, sometimes go over an hour. It depends how much we've got to say about a particular book, how long the book is, stuff like that. Well, you have something to say when you're done.
I host the videos on YouTube, and way back when, their limit used to be 10 minutes. And so that was kind of my cap. I wanted to make sure I got an episode out. And that's actually why I talk so fast in the episodes. In the earlier ones especially, I wanted to get everything in. But eventually they cap it out 15 or 20. But for the audio ones, when we started out, it was just on end, like maybe 50 to an hour. And some people wrote in and said, listen, it's good, but it could be shortened down a little. So we try to get it around maybe 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. If it's an interview, closer to an hour because of my interest.
This is based on a hobby that we're all compulsive about, and that's why I think make it as long or as short as you want. And we appreciate the fact that you guys have an interest in our shows. So thank you very much for coming. We have 3 issues of the We're Doing magazine. They're right by the exit. Please take one if you'd like. It's got some good transcriptions, but I wanted to give you guys something for coming out. So everyone,
Look us up, check us out.
Yeah, please check us out.